Y News with Angelo Castro III, William Theo, and Darlene Basingan.
Good evening. Former President Benigno Aquino III is likely to face charges over the 2015 incident that killed members of the PNP Special Action Force in Mamasapano, Maguindanao. Grace Casin explains why.
Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales has ordered the filing of charges against former President Benigno Aquino III. The charges stemmed over Aquino's alleged hand in the death of 44 members of PNP Special Action Force who were part of the botched operation in Tucanalipaw, Mamasapano, Maguindanao. Aquino seemed to have disregarded the suspension of the anti-graft court against then PNP Chief Alan Purisima when he allowed him to lead the Oplan Exodus. In the said operation, Malaysian terrorist Zulkifli Binhir alias Marwan was killed, but it cost the lives of government troops who were then brutally killed. Also facing the same charges are Purisima and former SAF Director Getulio Nepeñas, who both stand as his co-conspirator according to the Ombudsman. In a statement sent by Aquino's camp to UNTV, his spokesperson says the former president has already received a copy of the Ombudsman's order. His camp is now studying the resolution and plan to file a motion for reconsideration. They said there might have been a misappreciation of the facts of the incident which led to a wrong conclusion. Bayan Muna Representative Carlos Zarate, meanwhile, is glad with the action taken by the Ombudsman, saying it serves justice to those who died in the botched operation. Malacanang is hoping that justice will soon be served for the so-called fallen 44 at the soonest possible time. The palace also hopes the case would immediately be resolved. It adds that the president recognizes the heroism by the SAF 44 and hopes that their deaths would soon be given justice. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Philippine National Police says it is still possible that Police Superintendent Marvin Marcos will be removed from his post. Monokson explains why.
President Rodrigo Duterte's order to reinstate Superintendent Marvin Marcos has drawn flack, but the Philippine National Police or PNP tells critics not to worry as Marcos can still be sacked. PNP explains the Internal Affairs Service has yet to release a resolution on his administrative case. They are also waiting as well for the decision of the DOJ on the criminal case of Marcos and several others.
Maaari po yun. That's possible based on the whatever is going to be presented in the criminal court, particularly on the case of Marcos et al.
The PNP explains the controversial cop is able to return as he already have finished the process erring cops normally undergo. This process, the PNP says, began when an arrest warrant was issued against Marcos and his men. Once a police was detained, he or she is automatically on a leave of absence or LOA and remains in service. After his case was downgraded to homicide, he immediately posted bail alongside the lifting of his LOA.
Since the lifting of the LOA, they were returned to their units on duty status, and Marcos was returned or hindi naman reassigned kasi returned nga lang sila to their unit, which is the CIDG. And CIDG, seeing him on duty status, placed him or reassigned him to CIDG 12.
The PNP clarifies that Marcos is just an officer in charge and not the official chief of the CIDG Region 12. The PNP calls on the public to understand the process they are implementing to discipline rogue cops. It also vows to never take advantage of the wrongdoings of its personnel. Monhokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crami.
The Bulacan Provincial Police Office confirms that suspect Carmelino Miling Ibanez raped one of the 5 victims of the gruesome massacre in San Jose del Monte, Bulacan. In a press conference earlier at Camp Olivas in Pampanga, Senior Superintendent Romeo Karamat III said the results of the forensic exam confirms that Ibanez raped Estrella Dizon. The police, however, said there is no strong evidence to prove that the suspect also raped Auring Dizon. Authorities added that none of the DNA of the persons of interest matched the DNA from the crime scene. Karamat notes that although Ibanez' DNA matched to the crime scene, they would still investigate the husband of Estrella, Dexter Carlos. Dexter was the first one who discovered the bodies of the victims.
Retired General Janicio Santiago says he will accept it if President Rodrigo Duterte offers him the chief position in the Bureau of Corrections or BOC. Grace Casin tells us why.
Justice Undersecretary Erickson Balmes, through a text message, has revealed today Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre's plan to recommend to President Rodrigo Duterte retired General Junicio Santiago to become the next Director General of the Bureau of Corrections. This after DOJ received the irrevocable resignation of retired Police General Benjamin de los Santos, citing the resurgence of illegal drug trade inside the New Bilibid prison. Santiago is thankful for Aguirre's trust in his capabilities and adds that he will let the president decide on the matter.
The recommendation is not good until it is approved by the president. So magantay lang tayo. Pag ang presidente na nagsabi, you have no choice. But yes man ako.
During today's interview in the program Get It Straight with Daniel Razon, Santiago said he wants to recommend the transfer of convicted drug lord Peter Co to Montible Sub-Prison Facility in Palawan. He adds that it is high time to remove big-time drug lords from NBP to fully control and eventually stop the proliferation of illegal drugs inside the National Penitentiary.
Ang tanong ko, bakit nandyan yan? Eh, yan pasimuno. Ilayo mo siya, segregate mo siya. Put him where in his rightful place. Kung papayag Secretary Aguirre, papadala ko sa Palawan yan.
But can you suggest that?
Isasuggest ko talaga.
Okay, so ito, kasi ginawa...
Baka makinig sa akin, Secretary Aguirre.
It can be recalled that Santiago ordered the transfer of Co to Leyte during his term as Bucor Chief. But after he resigned, Co was returned to NBP and continued his illegal drug trade.
Eh, nasaan si Peter Co during my time?
di ba nabalik ulit? Inalis mo tas nabalik ulit?
Eh, wala na ako.
Ba't
5 million ang offer sa akin yan. Nakabalik siya. Hindi ko malaman ba siya nakabalik.
5 million offer sa'yo para?
Tanggalin ko siya sa Leyte.
Meanwhile, Malacanang is not losing hope that the problem of illegal drug trade inside NBP will soon be resolved.
Certain steps are being taken to make sure that the drug problem inside the new NBP is addressed.
Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Meanwhile, Court of Appeals presiding Justice Andres Reyes Jr. took his oath today as the newest Supreme Court Justice. He replaces Associate Justice Bienvenido Reyes Jr., who retired last July 6. Reyes is the third appointee of President Duterte to the High Court. Prior to his appointment, he was the top magistrate of CA since 2010.
Let me just tell everybody that I have declared martial law for Mindanao.
President Rodrigo Duterte is likely to obtain an advance copy of the military's recommendation on martial law this weekend, according to the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Rosalie Cos explains why.
The Working Committee of the Armed Forces of the Philippines is on the concluding stage of its assessment on the situation in Marawi City. This will be the basis for the recommendation of the military to extend or not martial law in Mindanao. Upon finalization, it will be submitted to AFP Chief of Staff General Eduardo Año for his recommendation, then to Defense Secretary and Martial Law Administrator Delfin Lorenzana for the final assessment and recommendation to President Rodrigo Duterte. AFP spokesperson Brigadier General Restituto Padilla said an advance copy of the recommendation can be given to the Commander-in-Chief for reference. This after reports of a possible meeting between President Duterte and senators on Monday to discuss the possible extension of martial law.
I am sure that the President is getting updates regularly, and he may even have an advance copy of the recommendation prior to that. Because he is the Commander-in-Chief and he has to know, of course.
Meanwhile, based on the latest report of AFP, the military has to clear around 600 buildings or infrastructures from terrorists. According to their assessment, this can take more than 10 days. Also, there is a huge possibility that crisis in Marawi City will not be over until the day of the President's State of the Nation address on July 24.
So we still have 600.
Yeah, estimate.
So
estimate, yes.
that will be 12 days more?
Yeah, so we are right into the 10 to 15 days of the President.
Opo.
But the 10 to 15 days is beyond the SONA, by the way. So don't expect it to be before the SONA.
Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The Supreme Court is being asked to rule on the petition that seeks to compel the upper and lower house of Congress to review the declaration of martial law in Mindanao. Roderick Mendoza explains why.
The group of Senator Laila de Lima is asking the Supreme Court to decide their petition, which seeks to compel Congress to convene in a joint session. The court will have its last opportunity to decide the case this Tuesday before the martial law declaration expires on July 22. The petitioners said it would be better for the court to decide now because the issue will become complicated once President Rodrigo Duterte decides to extend the martial law in Mindanao. The SC ruling is important because it will be a guide in similar situations.
It's better for the court to decide as early as possible. That means as soon as possible, hopefully by next week, so that the rules are set prior to another declaration.
The petition will be mooted if the SC will not rule on it before Proclamation 216 expires. But the group said the High Court can still decide the issues.
The court can still actually decide the case on the ground that it's capable of repetition yet evading review.
The group is not concerned whether the Congress will affirm or revoke the martial law. What they are saying is for Congress to do its job.
All we're asking is for Congress na mag-meet kayo, 'di ba? Pag-aralan niyo kung ano yung nangyari, gawin niyo yung trabaho niyo, 'di ba? We're not going to ask them to actually decide in a certain way. That's up to their political judgment.
The two houses of Congress had previously issued separate resolutions affirming the basis of the President's declaration. But the group said this is not enough compliance as to what the Constitution requires.
The Constitution requires full compliance, and that is joint session by Congress, and that also means full deliberation that is open and robust.
Roderick Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The Philippine National Police is encouraging motorists to take alternate routes on the day of President Rodrigo Duterte's State of the Nation address on July 24. Joyce Balancio will tell us why.
More than 6,000 policemen will be deployed to Commonwealth Avenue and Batasan Road to secure the area as rallies stage their protests during President Duterte's second State of the Nation address. In a consultative meeting earlier, QCPD District Director Police Chief Superintendent Guillermo Eliazar said no road will be closed on July 24 following the President's orders to ease the flow of traffic for motorists during his SONA. Lanes along Commonwealth Avenue will be designated for rallyists heading to Batasan and for regular motorists using the road. The PNP, however, advises the public to take alternate routes. Coming from EDSA, motorists may take Congressional Road to Mindanao Avenue, then take Old Sauyo Road, go left to Chestnut Street, and right to Dahlia going to Fairlane. From there, take a left turn to exit to Commonwealth. Motorists coming from Quezon City Circle may take North Avenue to go to Mindanao Avenue, then follow the same route going to Dahlia and Fairlane. Those along Visayas Avenue can also choose Tangtang Sora, exiting Mindanao Avenue, going to Dahlia and Fairlane. Motorists coming from Fairview Commonwealth may take the same route to exit to Quezon City Circle or EDSA. Meanwhile, the PNP has announced that rallyists will still be allowed to go near the Batasan Pambansa Complex on the SONA day.
Yung eastbound, ibibigay natin lahat yun sa mga relista hanggang dun sa may halos malapit na sa Batasan. So, ibig sabihin, wala sinagtala. Wala tayong blockade dito sa Sandigan.
Consequently, NCRPO Chief Oscar Albayalde assured that they will be exercising maximum tolerance to rallyists. No container vans and barbed wires will be placed to prevent them. The Bureau of Fire Protection or BFP meanwhile guarantees the protesters that they will not use water hose against them unless ordered by the PNP.
Same as last year po, no? The same as last year, yung ating Chief PNP ay pinaalis yung mga vest, yung mga shield ng mga kapulisan natin, yung mga baton ng kapulisan natin, pinadala lang sa isang truck po yan, no? Para wala pong intimidation dito.
On the other hand, Bayan Secretary General Renato Reyes openly said in the meeting there are plans to commence the protests as early as July 23. His group, however, guarantees the police that it will be a peaceful gathering.
We have no other agenda but to present the real state of the nation, ipabatid sa Pangulo ang mga problema ng bayan.
Joyce Balancio, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Next on Y News. DTI plans to increase by 2 million pesos the funding for the micro, small, and medium enterprises next year.
Senior citizens and persons with disabilities to receive 20% discount on online booking for domestic travel.
And Executive Order Number 26 or the nationwide smoking ban set to take effect on July 23.
Y News will be right back. The government is considering huge rehabilitation work in Marawi City in drafting the 2018 national budget. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
The government has allocated 10 billion pesos in the 2018 national budget for the rehabilitation of Marawi City, according to Budget and Management Secretary Benjamin Jokno. This is aside from the 5 billion peso fund allocation for the Task Force Bangon Marawi for the months of August until December 2017 that will be taken from the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council Fund and its member agencies. Meanwhile, the government will also allocate funds for Marawi City in 2019.
The rebuilding of Marawi will be a multi-year task. And in fact, there is a task force created to prepare such a plan.
The official believes the city's restoration will take years. The government may still allocate additional funds depending on the result of assessment and plans of Task Force Bangon Marawi. Meanwhile, Secretary Jokno says the administration is targeting to submit to Congress its proposed national budget for 2018 on the day of President Duterte's State of the Nation Address or SONA on July 24, which coincides with the opening day for the new congressional session.
That's a first time in Philippine history. Okay, so why are we doing this? So we can have an early start.
The proposed 2018 national budget totals to 3.767 trillion pesos, wherein the biggest chunks go to education and infrastructure development. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The Department of Social Welfare and Development has met with village officials of Iligan City to discuss their concerns over the Marawi evacuees who are now staying in Iligan. Victor Cosare tells us why.
36 barangay chairman of Iligan City met with the representatives of the Department of Social Welfare and Development or DSWD to discuss the problems concerning home-based internally displaced persons or those who fled Marawi City and are now staying at their relatives or friends in Iligan City. Barangay Tubod, which has the most number of home-based IDPs, complains of the lack of discipline of evacuees in acquiring relief goods and proper waste disposal.
If we have 5,600, so hindi natin ma-accommodate sa isa lang na isang araw. Kaya magkagulo talaga. Yung iba hindi nabigyan, hindi sila makapaghintay. Ang gusto nila, at that day, mayroon silang madala.
The DSWD vows to address the problem in the distribution of relief goods.
Maganda naman yung result at yung mga hinaing ng mga barangay kapitan natin dahil talagang tumutulong sila. Pero there are limits. So kailangan yung tulungan ng national government.
Barangay Santa Filomena, meanwhile, wants to address the problem on peace and order in their area.
Among kapantayan po, no? Kay Basyo, usahay mo daghan, usahay mo gamay, o takebalo, no? Pero actually, sa Barangay Santa Filomena, ang among bantay purok dito is pankyon. Anong nagtrabaho gigisakto.
DSWD Undersecretary Hope Hervilla says the national government is now preparing to address the complaints and problems of every barangay in Iligan City regarding the Marawi crisis. Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Delegations from ASEAN member states reconvenes today in line with the conduct of ASEAN connectivity meetings in the country. Nel Maribohok tells us why.
Discussions on the issues for the implementation of the Master Plan on ASEAN Connectivity 2025 resumed today among representatives from member nations of ASEAN. The Master Plan aims to achieve a comprehensively connected and integrated ASEAN that will promote competitiveness as one community. These include free trade in the 10 member states of the ASEAN, such as the initiatives by the Philippines and Indonesia on April 30 that launched the roll-on-roll-off Ro-Ro ferry from Davao City to Indonesia. In the two-day symposium, they talk about the infrastructure and city development in the region.
We'd like to look at the good practices of places like Sydney, Singapore, how we can grow sustainable smart cities in ASEAN as well.
We are developing in Clark a Clark Green City that would hopefully be the model of a future urban development. Similarly, we're doing a comprehensive plan for Metro Cebu, Metro Davao to make sure that we not only grow but we make the cities livable.
The result of the meeting will be submitted to the ASEAN Coordinating Council for the consideration and possibly be tackled by ASEAN leaders. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Muntinlupa City.
The Department of Trade and Industry plans to increase by 2 million pesos the funding for the micro, small, and medium enterprises next year. Maki Libradilla tells us why.
The 1 billion peso budget for the P3 loan program of the government has recently been approved, but the Department of Trade and Industry or DTI says the amount would not suffice. Based on the figures of DTI, they would need 1.5 billion pesos to accommodate those who seek to loan money from the government. Of the current 1 billion peso fund with the DTI, 740 million pesos have already been loaned. Because of this, the DTI plans to request an additional budget of 2 billion pesos for next year. Trade Department says the 1 billion pesos will be allotted for cash loans, while the 1 billion pesos will fund the shared service facilities or the equipment and machineries used for business.
1B pa lang tayo ngayon. So that's why we need to have additional. Our President mentioned naman before that he's willing to allocate more funding for the P3.
P3 was launched to replace the 5-6 scheme. The government says the 5-6 scheme only buries many Filipinos in debt. P3 has lower interest rate of only 2.5% monthly as compared to the interest rate of 5-6 scheme, which is 20%.
Yung gusto nga sana namin, 1 billion per region, sabi ni Presidente rin yun. Pero if we are to replace the 5-6, I was saying earlier, the 5-6 has about 30 billion estimate na naka-float, no? So, technically, 30 billion dapat yung ipapa-replace natin, no?
Under the P3 program, those planning to put up a small business like sari-sari stores, eatery, and vending stalls in public markets can apply for a loan of 5,000 pesos to 100,000 pesos. Applicants just have to go to accredited institutions of DTI and fill up a form. Bring requirements like IDs and documents about their business. They will also undergo an interview. Currently, MSME or micro, small, and medium entrepreneurs are paying 36 kinds of tax. The said kind of tax are far cry from other countries like Singapore that imposes only 6 kinds of tax on its MSMEs. Because of this, Senator Mig Zubiri is pushing for the reduction in the tax imposed on small businesses for their immediate success. Maki Libradilla, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasig City.
The Philippine Competition Commission will investigate if there is an existing cartel of garlic in the country. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
Senator Cynthia Villar is unsatisfied with how the case of garlic cartel is going. The issue was revealed in 2013. Villar says importers during that time are still operating nowadays even after they were implicated in the report of the Department of Justice.
Kala ko we learned our lesson. Tapos ngayon bumabalik na naman and it keeps on recurring.
Villar will endorse the report to the Philippine Competition Commission or PCC for action against those who are allegedly involved in garlic cartel. PCC was created in 2015 to monitor the competition in the market. It also has the power to investigate, such as the current issue on garlic. Those proven of involvement in cartels will be fined of up to 100 million pesos on first offense. Fine is higher if the product is among the basic goods.
3 times nung penalty na normally i-impose ordinaryong produkto ang pwedeng ipataw dito sa mga produkto tulad ng garlic at bigas.
Recently, the Department of Agriculture put on blacklist 43 garlic importers for allegedly participating in cartel for failing to import garlic despite having import clearances from DA. Blacklisted companies will be compared with the inputs in DOJ's report in 2014.
Hindi naman po masasayang yung 2014 report kasi po oras na buksan po namin ang kaso ay definitely kasama po yan sa documents na re-reviewin natin.
Ray Pilayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Meanwhile, a motion was filed before the Energy Regulatory Commission or ERC today seeking to dismiss Meralco's power supply agreements. Leslie Langboen tells us why.
Romeo Junia, a member of Power for People, filed motion to dismiss Meralco's 7 power supply agreements or PSAs before the Energy Regulatory Commission today. Junia argues that applications of Meralco were filed after close of business hours of April 29 last year, thus exceeding the deadline for filing of PSAs that are not yet covered by the competitive selection process resolution.
The 7 applications were filed after 5 o'clock in the afternoon of April 29. So I think it's a fatal mistake that ERC received those applications beyond 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Junia adds that Meralco's projected demand should be subjected to CSP or public bidding.
We're not saying that the present suppliers of Meralco be excluded from the bid. By all means, they can participate, but you know, for consumers' sake, let them compete in an open, public, and transparent market. So we can, as ERC and DOE said, we can fetch or draw the best price.
Junia insists that procurement of power supply by distribution utilities such as Meralco needs to undergo competitive selection process under ERC Resolution No. 1 Series of 2016. The PSAs have a minimum term of 20 years and the average delivered rate is 3 pesos and 89 centavos based on the proposed price. Meanwhile, Meralco says each of the PSAs went through lengthy processes before having it signed and filed with the ERC. Leslie Langboen, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasig City.
In other news, the Philippine National Police is finalizing its list of prohibited fireworks in the country. This after President Rodrigo Duterte signed Executive Order 28 on regulation and control of the use of firecrackers and other pyrotechnic devices. Also, the PNP is identifying possible designated areas for fireworks use in communities. PNP is also coordinating with fireworks manufacturers and vendors in drafting measures to help them prevent further loss of income. Meanwhile, senior citizens and persons with disabilities may soon avail a 20% discount when booking a domestic flight online through the flight carrier's website or a mobile application. This after the Department of Transportation Civil Aeronautics Board approved the resolution yesterday. Under the said resolution, senior citizens, PWDs, or their representatives must input the passenger's details, including date of birth and ID number indicated in the senior citizen or PWD card. The 20% discount is applicable on actual and promotional fares offered by the airlines. However, it shall not cover lawful taxes and other fees and charges imposed in relation to domestic air travel. The resolution will take effect 15 days after publication. The nationwide smoking ban will take effect on July 23 even without implementing rules and regulations or IRR. Ray Pelayo explains why.
It was in May when President Rodrigo Duterte signed the Executive Order No. 26 that would pave the way for the enforcement of a nationwide smoking ban. The Department of Health or DOH says the order will take effect on July 23, although the government has yet to release the implementing rules and regulation for its enforcement.
Sorry po, walang pangkalatang IRR. Ang Department of Health ay merong sariling version ng IRR. Yung ibang ahensya, meron din sariling version ng IRR. Kung kailang ilalabas, sana sa lalong madaling panahon.
Under the EO, smoking is prohibited in public places like schools, workplaces, government facilities, and other establishments. The prohibition also covers public conveyance like elevators, airplanes, ships, and public utility vehicles. The Health Department advises owners of business establishments to put no smoking signages in their respective areas to avoid facing violations. The designation of smoking areas is allowed as long as there are buffer zones or vacant rooms in between the smoking area and public area.
Tandaan nyo po yung mga salient features po nun. Hindi pwedeng may isang kwarto ka lang ng no smoking tapos wala kang tinatawag na buffer zones. Pag hindi po ganon, wag na kayong maglagay ng smoking area sapagkat violation po yun ng executive order.
Violators of the nationwide smoking ban might face a 5,000 peso fine and 4 months imprisonment. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, confirmed the rise in the cost of damages brought about by the recent earthquake in Leyte, which now reached 175.6 million pesos. Based on the latest assessment, the damages include 80 schools, 11 health facilities, 29 public and government establishments, and 2 commercial buildings. A total of 2,866 houses were affected, with 945 totally damaged and 1,921 were partially damaged. The number of injured also rose to 448.
The Metro Manila Development Authority observed significant improvements on day 1 of the 3rd Metro-wide earthquake drill today, as compared with the previous drills. Joanano will tell us why.
Based on the initial assessment of MMDA, disaster response in the line of communication among agencies have improved in today's conduct of Metro-wide earthquake drill. MMDA Chairman Danilo Lim noted the big improvement in terms of speed of each local government units in responding to different scenarios. They also observed improvements in communication as authorities use modern handheld radios and upgraded the communication system.
Yun ang main problem namin, how to communicate with the quadrant. Malalapit lang kami nun. Pero ngayon, na-test ni Chairman na nakapag-communicate siya sa 4 quadrant and nakapag-render ng efficient, madaling oras ng report about the situation.
The number of participants also increased because residents of barangay and other subdivisions actively joined the drill. But according to Lim, it is too early to conclude that the entire process was successful since it is just the first day. Chairman Lim also explains that they decided to conduct the drill on a payday Friday to test the worst-case scenario that might happen in case a 7.2 magnitude earthquake or the big one hit Metro Manila.
Alam naman natin na yung sakuna ay walang pinipili na oras o panahon, di ba? And we would like to do this test in a worst case scenario kung saan matetest talaga natin yung capability natin na mag-respond sa kalamidad.
The Metro-wide shake drill will resume at 4 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow to showcase other earthquake scenarios, while the MMDA is set to evaluate the performance of all local government units and barangays to identify the level of preparedness in Metro Manila in case of a strong earthquake. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Taguig City.
The capability of different government agencies and rescue units were tested in today's Metro-wide shake drill. Grace Cassian tells us why.
Exactly 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the 15,000 employees of the Quezon City Hall conducted duck, cover, and hold as part of the Metro-wide earthquake drill. After a few minutes, people immediately evacuated their offices. Firefighters and emergency responders arrived in the area to attend to the injured. The UNTV News and Rescue team was among those who responded to the scene. At the Quezon City Memorial Circle, the Quezon City Police respond to the incidents of scenarios of looting and hostage-taking. In Camp Aguinaldo, a temporary command center was established at the grandstand because the general headquarters was damaged after a strong quake. The operation of the Metro Rail Transit was suspended for a few seconds because of the shake drill. Meanwhile, the Veterans Memorial Medical Center served as the North Quadrant, where the severely wounded persons from Quezon City, Mandaluyong, San Juan, Caloocan, and Valenzuela City were brought. The exercises in the area resulted to heavy traffic along the northbound lane of EDSA. In Manila, emergency responders also responded to the injured in different parts of the city. Meanwhile, Villamor Air Base served as the South Quadrant for the victims coming from the southern part of Metro Manila. Grace Casim, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Pasig City government has joined today's drill but focused not only on possible earthquake scenarios but also on future terror attacks. Joyce Balancho will tell us why.
The tanker accidentally abandoned the tanker.
The scenario at Emerald Street in Pasig City was similar to the Resorts World Manila attack. There were 4 armed men who attacked the Orient Square building and fired shots to 3 people who lay dead in front of the building. There was also a chemical gas leak and a planted bomb in front of the building. The attackers also started fire inside the building, wherein 25 people were trapped. After 15 minutes, the Pasig City Police arrived and cordoned the area. They have immediately activated the rescue task force, composed of 3 well-trained SWAT and 4 paramedics wearing sealed suit. LUF-60, a robot of the fire department, was also used to disperse the hazardous gas. Then an assault team entered the Orient Square and confronted the attackers. After clearing the portion of the building, Rescue Task Force 2 responded and evacuated the victims to a safer area. It was only after the suspects were apprehended when the SOCO team were allowed to enter. Overall, it took 1.5 hours for the responding authorities to complete the terror attack drill. According to Pasig City Police Chief Police Senior Superintendent Orlando Yebra, it was an organized response due to the Rescue Task Force. They also mounted a crisis management committee composed of different agencies of the government.
Ang normal na ginagawa ng kapulisan natin is to initiate an assault ng SWAT, di ba? And then after nila ma-declare na clear yung area, clear of any threat, saka pa lang pwedeng pumasok yung mga medics, mga rescue natin to retrieve the bodies or any injured person. But with this concept na rescue...
More than 400 clients of the Parole and Probation Administration in Santa Rosa, Laguna were thankful for the free medical services rendered to them by UNTV and Members Church of God International. Leslie Longbowen tells us why.
Calabarzon Region's Parole and Probation Administration has 1,500 clients. Most of them come from poor families. Thus, office administrators asked UNTV and Members Church of God International to help in addressing the medical needs of their clients through a medical mission.
Aming kliyente ay talaga naman masasabi natin kung may kakulangan sa financial at hindi na sila talaga yung makakapag-avail ng mga medical fees. So, malaking tulong ito para sa kanila. Brother Eli Soriano, maraming salamat po sa pagkakataong ito na ibinigay niyo sa Parole and Probation. Mabuhay po kayo.
Hindi po namin kaya na matugunan lahat ng kanilang pangailangan. Thank you po.
More than 400 PPA clients, together with their relatives and other residents of Barangay Canluran in Santa Rosa City, availed the free services. They were also given free medicines and even legal services.
Napakaligaya po namin sa pagkakaroon ng medical, dental, optical and legal mission kasi po kalimitan po sa ating mga kliyente hindi na po nakaka-afford na kumuha ng mga ganyan services.
PPA hopes that other private institutions will follow UNTV in its endeavor to help the poor, such as their clients. Leslie Longbowen for Serbisyong Kasangbahay.
Happy weekend. It's been a long week.
Happy weekend to everyone.
Yeah. We were just talking about that. It was a long week.
Yeah, that's right. For Gen X, not for millennials.
Really?
Those are the reasons behind the news. July 14, 2017. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am William Theo.
And I'm Darlene Basingan, because we need to know.
We will always ask why. Thank you for watching Y News.